Hello, welcome to Azure Kubernetes deployment series part 11. In this series, we are going to learn how to deploy microservice-based applications into AKS cluster using both Helm chart and customization. In our previous labs, we have already discussed how to deploy microservices into AKS using Helm chart and customization individually in multiple environments. In this lab, we are going to focus how to take the advantage of using Helm chart as well as customization and deploy the microservices into AKS cluster into multiple environments. So we have already discussed using Helm chart or customization individually we can deploy the application into multiple environments. But why or what's the advantage we'll get by combining both to deploy the microservices into AKS cluster in multiple environments? So let's discuss how we can combine both or how we can take the advantage of using both the Helm chart and customization. So if you can see here, you can see, so the Helm chart basically it is a template. It's like a form where we can just replace few of the items and those items we can mention in our values. Okay, so the from the values it take the value and in the uh, template it will replace. For example, if we can see here, for example, if you go to one of our chart here, this is my repository structure. So here I have this store Helm chart. Under this I have 5 Helm charts. One is config, order, product, rabbit message queue, and store for front. So this is nothing. It contains the Helm chart for individual services. So if we'll expand it, one of the service here, we can see this is our template that contains our order deployment and the order service. And under this, we have also a values.yaml. So this values.yaml, it provides the values of the items that need to be filled in the template, deployment template, or you can say our manifest. Okay, so it is nothing, it is kind of a form, and we will fill with few of the items using this values.yaml. So in this case, we can use it to deploy microservices into different environments as well, and that we can do by defining different values.yaml file with respect to different environments. It can be like dev.values.yaml or test-values.yaml, or it may be prod values.yaml file. So this way we can create multiple values.yaml file, and that we can pass as argument or parameter while deploying the microservices or the Helm chart into the cluster. But in some scenarios, this way we can do that. But in some scenarios, in case of the order deployment, for example, so this is our template. So we can fill any of these items from the values.yaml. But some scenarios, if you want to add few things, some new items or modify some items or remove some items from the template itself, so that is not possible using Helm chart. So in order to do that, suppose you want to add few things or remove few things from the template. In that scenario, we can use the Kustomize to cost to update it. I mean, we have to update the template um, so that we can add few new items as per the requirement for the specific environment. Okay, so in order to do that, if you go to the repository here, you can see. Um, so Kustomize, we can just, it is kind of overlays where we can add few extra items or remove some extra items, and it will update the values in the base folder. And that so using this way we can deploy applications into multiple environments where we will modify the specific template by adding few extra informations or removing some extra information. So that can be done in two approaches. We can see here there are two approaches. Okay, so the first approach is like we can uh, take the template itself, I mean the Helm chart itself, and over that we can add our customization. Okay, I mean with whatever, for example, we have this order chart. Okay, so using this chart we have the value, we have the values.yaml, and we have the template. Using that we'll create a Helm chart or the template. Okay, so once that, so what we'll create here under the base folder, you can see here I have base folder, but there is no template available. So what we'll do first, using this order deployment and order service YAML manifest file, and using the values.yaml file, we can create a Helm template that under the base folder. Okay, so we'll use that as base, and under that we also create some overlays folder. Under that we have the dev, test, and prod specific changes we'll do. So what it will do, in dev environment also we'll add a values.yaml, and prod also will add another values.yaml, and under test we also add another values.yaml. Okay, so you can give any name, but whatever name we are providing, that we have to include here as a path, we need to include in our customization. So it will refer the resource, it will refer in the base folder. So what it will do, in dev, in the base folder we have to create, if you go to the customization here, we can see it is using a deploy.yaml file. Okay, so that deploy.yaml file is not created here. So that we will create using our Helm chart. Okay, so using the Helm command, we'll create the Helm chart. So that will be created by using this template, order deployment service YAML file and the values.yaml file. Using this, it will generate here, and once that will generate here, so the dev, the overlays folder. Okay, so you can see here the dev, prod, and test. So here we redefine the values.yaml. For example, here I have taken here the replicas value, but you can change any values that can be, you can modify. Suppose here you can see, right, we have multiple values. Any values you can change here by defining this. We can add here under this. So whatever value you want to add, you can just include here. So once that is done, so we have to include this base deploy. It will generate the base deploy.yaml file, and this overlays customization that will replace. It will just do a. It will just create a new deploy.yaml file. Okay. Generally, the Helm chart, it will just replay the values in the newly created template file, but the customization, it will generate a new file using the base deploy.yaml file. Okay, so now in order to do that, let's go. So before doing that, let we first create our infrastructure. Let me go quickly to our infrastructure part, and here I'll just run this pipeline. Sorry, not pipeline, this is my script. So let me go to this, and okay, just type this. It will take some time to create the infrastructure. So let it continue. So the next step, what we will do is, once this infrastructure is ready, then we need to log into the AKS cluster, and also next step we have to build our Docker images and push into the Azure Content Registry that we have already discussed before in our previous lab. I have to push that using this Docker command. Okay, it is already built and already also tagged with the Azure Content Registry. So that we'll do next. So let's see whether the ACR is created or not in our Azure portal. Resource groups created. Yeah, the Azure content registry just now created. So now what we can do, we can go to this. Let me just open another command prompt, and from there what we'll do is just I have to log into the ACR. Okay, so let me do this. Let me log into the ACR here. Yeah, I'm able to log in successfully. Now let me quickly push the images to ACR. Let to push this one again. You can view this if you go here and check your repository. Nothing came now. Still it is pushing. By the time, yeah, let's see. Yeah, it is now available. Let's push this. If you go here, you can see it created version v1. Okay, the uh, the cluster is still is in progress. Okay, now that is pushed. Let me push the last one, the storefront into Azure Content Registry. Now we can see it should be both two services should be available. Yes, storefront is also there now. We can see all versions are beyond. Okay, now so our Docker images are available in Azure Content Registry. Next step, what we have to do is we need to create our first we have to create our manifest file. I mean the Helm template under the base folder. Okay, so that will be created using this Helm chart. So in order to create that one, we can use this command. If we go to, you can see here, we can generate this. How we will generate this? It will, we have multiple services. You can see config, order, product and all. It will take from the store Helm chart, and it will create a deploy.yaml file under the base folder of config folder, order service, product service, Rabbit message queue, and storefront. So each of the base folder it will create a deploy YAML file. Okay, so that we can do simply copying that. Now you can see here, if you see under the base folder it created just now. Okay, so this is the output of our Helm chart. Okay, so this is the deployment file that we can use for to deploy. But this again we need to override using the overlays. That is our customization. Okay, so what you can see here, if you see the replica is one, okay, in our base folder, but we want to override it. You can see I just mentioned one for dev environment, for test I mentioned two, and for prod I have mentioned three. But you can put any values and any other information also, not only the replica set. We can also for services you can use the node type. Okay, and memory resources you can change. So all these things you can do. So now if you see, we have generated the deploy YAML for each of the services. You can see here. Okay, product also, under product you can go and you can see deploy YAML. It was not there before, just now it got created. Okay, so it is available for all. Now the next step what we have to do is, once that is we have created this one, then what we have to do, if we want to see how our deployment is happening, for example, just to show one thing, for example, I want to show in product environment what should be the newly created uh, deployment YAML it will create for our deployment. I mean to deploy into the cluster. Okay, so you can see it is generating replica 3. Okay, so you can see this is the latest deployment file, that manifest file that we are going to deploy into the AKS cluster. Okay, this is nothing the preview. We can preview your information like using these commands. You can use this way or you can use this way also. I have not written for all the services, but you can use any of this. So this is nothing review to visualize how your resultant or I mean output file manifest file will be going to be deployed into the cluster. Okay, next then what we have to do, we have to deploy apply it into the cluster. Okay, so in order to apply into the cluster we can use, so we can see I have 3 environment. Okay, so before doing applying this I need to log into the AKS cluster and I have to create these namespaces, right? So for that let me go to this place. I have to log in. Yeah, you can see I can come here, just I have to log into the cluster here. Okay, let me, I think it should be, yeah, it is created, or this one is created. AKS cluster is created. I'm able to log in. Now let create these namespaces. Okay, and we'll create an alias also there. You can see here it created, and I'm now able to access the AKS cluster. So I'm getting some information by using kget all. Okay, so it is showing something now. So the next step is we need to deploy the on the manifest, the whatever the using this, right? It will create those using our overlays, right, with respect to different environment. The output manifest file we need to deploy into the cluster. So let first deploy into the dev environment. Okay, so it got deployed. Now let's check the pods. Okay, get pod minus n from dev environment, because we deployed into dev environment. You can see there is only replica one for each of the services. Okay, it will take some time to this other service come to online. We'll see that one. Now let's see deploy into test environment. We'll just run it. Okay, now check. Okay, get pod minus n test environment. Here you can see there are two replicas for each of the services, right? So this is how it is happening, because it is getting overridden by the overlays folder here. For each of the service, you can see I have the overlays, and under this I have mentioned the values. For dev it is 1, for test it is 3, and test for test it is 2, and for prod is 3. So this way it is just replacing our base deployment YAML file. This replica is getting replaced, but we can replace any one of these values by overriding under these overlays. Okay, now let deploy into the prod environment. Okay, now get it from the prod environment. Now we can see here there are 3 replicas available for each of the services, right? 3 orders, 3 prod, 3 storefront. Okay, and rabbit message queue also 3. So you can see here it is coming rabbit message queue 0, 1, 2, because it is a stateful service. So stateful service always it has an index. Okay, these are all stateless. Okay, so now if you go to one of these dev environment, now you can see all the services are running. Now if you want to access one of these, right, you can go to get SPC service minus n dev environment, and you can see this is our public IP of our service, front-end application service. So using that, if you go to browser and try to access, right, you can able to access, or you can call it as well. You can see this is the application. Okay, and you want to also call it, just use this. You can see welcome this. Okay, so here what we learned is like how we can use our Helm chart and customization together. Okay, so this approach what we learn is this is the template fast or Helm chart fast. I mean, under Helm chart, for each of the Helm chart you can see here I just added the the customization. Okay, that means first it will generate the template, and the customize will the override or create a new one using the um, um, uh, newly the helm chart that created using the the new helm file. Sorry, the template is created by the helm chart, so it will override by the customization. But in the second approach, that is the customize first approach, in that case we'll create the customization first. I mean, we have our own overlays, and this overlays will change the deployment and service file. It will override the deployment and service file, and using that we'll generate the helm chart. So that is another way. So that we'll discuss in our next lab, our next series. So this is, we learn how we can do it through the command line, but we can also automate it. That we can learn how we can automate it using our Azure pipeline. So if so this all about today. If you have any um, questions or any suggestion, just put it in the comments. And if you are following me, then at the end just try to delete the resources using this command. You can delete the resources, and yeah, so that's all for today. We can discuss more about this, how we can deploy it using Azure pipeline. Till then, bye bye, thank you.